Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a loaded show. So, the NBA calendar is heating up. The Hawks preseason schedule has just been officially announced just yesterday. We're going to break down the matchups, the storylines to follow, and what they could mean heading into the regular season and in the postseason. We've also got some big news for Hawks fans who love tradition. Basketball will be back in Atlanta for MLK Day after last year's disappointing absence. It was really weird that the Hawks weren't included for a home game last year for MLK Day, but it's back in Atlanta regardless. Then we're going to shift gears and talk about the ongoing Trey Young extension conversation. We have a fresh perspective on that front from ESPN's Bobby Marks. That might surprise some people, but it's following a similar storyline that we have been covering, so we're going to break that down. And also, Al Horford, the Hawks legend himself, is still on the free agent market. A very surprising thing, and Atlanta is one of the teams that's showing interest. So we're going to talk about a potential return and kind of break that down a little more than we already have in the past. So without further ado, let's waste no time and go ahead and get into it and talk about how the Hawks have officially revealed their 4-game 2025 preseason schedule, and it is a balanced mix of home and away games. We got 2 home games, 2 away games spread out evenly throughout the schedule. Atlanta is going to begin its exhibition play with 2 road contests. First, on Monday, October 6th against the Houston Rockets. Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets with an 8 p.m. Eastern tip. Then they're going to head to Memphis on Saturday, October 11th, also at 8 p.m. Eastern. After those 2 road games, the Hawks return home for 2 games at State Farm Arena. The first is against the Miami Heat on Monday, October 13th, 6 p.m. tip-off. And then also they're going to wrap up preseason play on Thursday, October 16th against the Houston Rockets, once again at 7:30 p.m. For the broadcast details, the October 6th and October 16th matchups, both against the Houston Rockets, are going to air on the Hawks radio flagship station, 92.9 The Game. Also the Hawks radio network. Steve Holman will have the call as always, with Mike Conti handling pregame, halftime, and postgame coverage. The FanDuel Sports Network Southeast TV schedule will be announced at a later date, but nonetheless, you will have several ways to keep up with the Hawks in the preseason. Now, you may have noticed something. The 2 of these 4 games are against the Houston Rockets, and the NBA was very intentional with that scheduling. It's not a coincidence. The NBA clearly wants to spotlight this matchup as the 2 teams only play each other twice in the regular season, 1 home, 1 away. They're doing the same for preseason because they want to see as much of this matchup as they can. The reason being, the Hawks and the Rockets have both had incredibly active off seasons. I mean, they have upgraded their rosters with moves that could seriously put them both in contention for a deep playoff run. This preseason pairing could be an early preview of a future finals matchup, maybe even next season's next season's NBA Finals. It's always dangerous to read too much into preseason games and scheduling, but in this case, the league is clearly hoping to add a little early season buzz and maybe get a cross-conference rivalry going. I wrote an article about that, and I think it's super intriguing that the Hawks and the Rockets are going to be facing off against each other twice. Now, this next piece of news is also regarding the schedule release, and we're going to get the full schedule on Thursday, but now we know a key game in the Hawks regular season, so it's one that the Hawks fans have been waiting for. After not having a home game on MLK Day last season, which was very disappointing, basketball is officially going to be back in Atlanta for this important holiday. The NBA released part of its 2025-26 schedule. They've been slowly releasing key dates and what games are going to be played on those dates. And the Hawks will be hosting Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks at 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday, January 19th. Other MLK Day games include the Thunder visiting the Cavs at 2:30, the Mavs playing the Knicks at 5, and the Celtics taking on the Pistons at 8 p.m. This Hawks-Bucks matchup is actually a rematch of last year's NBA Cup semifinals, where Milwaukee outlasted Atlanta 110-102 before going on to win the Cup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Despite the loss, the Hawks gained a lot of league-wide respect for their deep run in the tournament. That is pretty new still. It showed what this Hawks team can do when healthy. Last year in the NBA Cup, Jalen Johnson was still healthy, and Larry Nance, and we were looking at like a full Hawks roster that was young and really coming up. But nonetheless, they ended up losing. But it was an exciting matchup, and I feel like all Hawks-Bucks matchups are exciting and down to the wire. It's honestly just good to see Atlanta back in the spotlight on MLK Day. Last year's scheduling conflicts kept the Hawks from hosting, which certainly felt strange, especially, since the team and the city have such a deep connection to Dr. King's legacy. Trey Young even even tweeted his disappointment when the schedule was announced last year. Now it feels like the NBA has listened and corrected that mistake, which is always good to see, learning from your mistakes, because it was certainly weird that Atlanta, the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr., didn't have a home game on MLK Day. So now we're going to shift gears to the biggest ongoing storyline for this franchise, Trey Young's future, and we've covered it a whole lot on this channel, but it is the biggest storyline right now with the team, so obviously we got to talk about it. The Hawks have done a lot of work this offseason to improve the roster. The headline move, of course, was acquiring Kristaps Porzingis in that 3-team deal. It was a major upgrade over center Clint Capella. Atlanta also added Nickeil Alexander-Walker from the Minnesota Timberwolves in a sign and trade, bolstering both depth and versatility. These moves clearly aim to prove to Trey that this is a team worth staying with long term. However, there is no contract extension for Trey Young, and it doesn't look like it is going to happen, especially this offseason. And according to a former Nets assistant GM, Bobby Marks, and current ESPN analyst, there is a reason for that. So he spoke on ESPN's NBA Today and said he said that the Hawks are playing essentially slow playing these negotiations. In his words, he said, "I think if you're willing to commit long term, what does this roster exactly look like? I think you want a better feel. I think this is going to be a slow play as far as where both sides are going to go." In other words, Atlanta truly wants to see how this revamped roster performs before locking in anyone on a massive long-term deal. Obviously, they've got Jalen Johnson locked up to a long-term deal, and Dyson Daniels is extension eligible, and I would assume that gets done before the season starts, probably around October. It'll probably be a pretty late signing like Jalen's was. But paper doesn't win games. On paper, the roster looks very strong, but we need to see the action on the court, really. And the front office seems committed to making sure the pieces fit before committing big money to their start, which is a smart philosophy. It is a cautious approach, and it's frustrating for fans, and it's definitely frustrating for myself, who's just trying to cover what's going on with that contract extension. But now several analysts have now alluded to the fact that the Hawks aren't going to extend Trey, and they're going to play it out. Bobby Marks is certainly a credible source, so take this with a lot of validity. But in a league where flexibility is everything, this whole idea is pretty understandable, I would say. So finally, let's go ahead and talk about one of the biggest names that's still available in free agency, actually the biggest name that's still available in free agency, and it is a familiar face for Atlanta Hawks fans, Al Horford. So at 39 years old, Horford may be one of the league's oldest players, but he's still extremely valuable for a team with championship aspirations, still a very valuable player. Great at what he does, knows his role, plays his role, and is a veteran leader. Bleacher Report recently ranked him as the top free agent remaining, and that comes as no surprise. Horford was a key contributor for the Boston Celtics during their 2024 championship run, but, with Boston shifting their financial priorities, he's moving on, and the Golden State Warriors have been rumored and long linked as the favorites to sign him, pending resolution of their Jonathan Kuminga situation. But here's where it gets interesting. We've reported in the past that ESPN's Mark Spears had said Atlanta is showing interest in bringing Horford back. Spears mentioned that the Lakers and Bucks are in the mix as well, but Horford's personal life could factor heavily into his decision. He splits his time between Atlanta and Boston in the offseason. He's between those two cities. So he might, his proximity to family could outweigh other considerations, especially financially. And Atlanta's close to home for him. So Horford is, of course, a Hawks legend, a 4-time All-Star in Atlanta, part of the 60-win 2014-15 team, and one of the most consistent players in franchise history. During his 9 seasons here, the Hawks made the playoffs every single year, which is a ridiculous stat. Certainly a Hawks legend, no doubt. So would a reunion make sense? I think it absolutely would. As a third center behind Porzingis and Onyeka Okongwu, he could provide some leadership, playoff experience, and depth. He has a lot of experience just backing up Kristaps Porzingis. That was his role in Boston. And when Porzingis went down with an injury, he stepped into that starting lineup with ease. And I think in Atlanta, if Porzingis were to go down, which is obviously a likely thing to happen because Porzingis hasn't ever played a fully healthy season, Horford would fit into that starting lineup very well. He would fit just as Porzingis does with that starting group. Jalen Johnson and him could run an awesome 2-man front court game, and he would have chemistry with the rest of the guys and also rebuild a bridge in Atlanta. And that's certainly something I would love to see. The Hawks have 1 roster spot left, maybe 2 if this Caleb Houston signing doesn't go through. So I think Horford is absolutely a guy they should consider. The real question is whether Horford wants to finish it it where it all began, or chase one more ring elsewhere. I would think it's probably between the Hawks, Lakers, and I guess Bucks right now. But it's probably going to be between the Hawks, Warriors, and Lakers. So there you have it, a preseason schedule packed with storylines. I can't wait for the rest of the schedule to be announced. It will be on Thursday. A long-awaited MLK Day home game. Last season we didn't get it for whatever reason, but nonetheless, it's back this year. A very good move by the NBA. Careful moves in the Trey Young extension talks, and the possibility of Hawks legend Al Horford returning home with that final roster spot, maybe one of the final 2 roster spots. And as always, we're going to keep you updated here on Hawks Latest as more news breaks. Hopefully in the coming days, we're going to have a lot to talk about with the schedule release and also maybe some breaking news. Be sure to subscribe, drop a like if you enjoyed the breakdown, and let me know in the comments, would you like to see Horford back in a Hawks uniform, or is it time to just let him retire or go elsewhere? So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. This has been Hawks Latest, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.